by Pri. Right now, we've got Next Up, Leading with Heart and Community at the center. This is a discussion on the impact of creative leadership and how it can be used as a tool for transformative change. On this panel, best practices will be identified around creative leadership while examining potential pitfalls and reflect on how people can individually deploy creative leadership within their projects and their lives. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Check. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. We are the Next Up panel, and we are just going to jump right into it. We have Ashley, Joy, Ammarah, and Warda that are going to be answering some very solid questions that we've come up with. So we're going to jump right into it. Ashley, this question is for you. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself first?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, everyone can hear me. Good. A bit about myself. So I'm Ashley T, she, her pronouns, and I've done a lot of work in the past few years claiming space for myself through my identity. So I am a Black, biracial, bisexual, and bipolar type 2 woman. And so because of that and my embracing of my identities, I have coined myself as the bifecta. And so I actually produce and sell my art under that name. And I am a multidisciplinary artist. I do abstract visual, literary, and performance arts. Y'all are going to get a taste of my performance art later tonight. Yeah, I've just been doing a lot of community work, and it's been informing my art, and my art has been informing my community work.
Wonderful. Thank you. So what does it mean to lead with heart and community at the center?
I think that really, at its core, it boils down to putting people before policy, because the arts industry is comprised of many different, I guess you can call them departments. You have the people in need, you have people in need of programs, resources, community, embrace, and encouragement. You have artists, you have arts administrators, and just you have grantors and funders, the people with all the monies. I don't want to detract from policy in a sense of saying like it's the enemy, that we should never have policy. It's really necessary for us to have guidelines in place in order for us to have somewhere to start, to move forward, and to look back on what we've done and what we've accomplished and what we failed at. But we really need to move away from putting policy before people in the sense that we put everyone as a number. We slap this sort of story and this assumption onto every artist, onto every grant recipient, onto everyone who tries to be part of the arts industry, that we don't look at them as individuals and look at their story and look at how their identities intersect. And that's something that's very important to me, because as someone who navigates the world as a queer person, I'm not just a queer person, I'm a queer woman, I'm a Black queer woman, I'm a Black disabled queer woman. And so these intersections really inform on how I'm able to receive and maintain and produce and express any resources within the arts industry. And it's a matter of us being able to take that into account and actually serve the people that we say in our mandates, we say in our mission statements, we say on our beautiful websites that we're going to serve. And instead of focusing on the guidelines in our little handbooks and just sticking to that verbatim, actually meeting with and speaking with the people that we want to serve, the people that we intend to serve, hearing their stories and hearing how they need to be served. So hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just to feed off that, I think that was a really great, well-rounded answer. But speaking into that policy piece, I think when we move away from policy, we move also away from radical grassroots movement, and that's what a lot of these movements, we have to remember, started as radical grassroots activism and fighting for the rights of the intersectional identities that you hold, that some of them I hold, and a lot of us serve and hold ourselves. And just to emphasize how important I think that is, yeah, I feel like you did a great job other than that. Does anyone else know?
Yeah, I'll add on. For me, what it means is listening to the community and what the community needs. Last year, I held a festival called Black Excellence Festival, and a few people here attended. From that festival, I got to ask people questions as they were coming in and asking them what else do they need, what other events, what other workshops, training, what would you need? So listening to the people and then delivering what they said, please provide for us. And from that event, from that festival, I was able to put on consistent events. So having consistent places and spaces and showing up for them, showing up for ourselves. And another term I really live by right now is for us, by us. So I'm a newcomer, and I will understand a newcomer and what they need and how I can best help them in terms of resources, in terms of community. Community is huge. Yeah, and art is the best way. You don't really need language. You can speak through expression, whatever that looks like. So art, expression.
Joy?
Wow, I'm so amazed and so honored to be on this panel. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so blessed to be here. I just want to add very quickly, when I think about community and heart and leading with community and heart, I think about the communities that raised me. I think about Lawrence Heights. I think about Weston Mount Dennis, Weston Jane, Weston Lawrence. I think about the schools that I went to. And when it comes to leading with heart, I'm leading with these communities in my heart. Because these communities showed me that no matter where I live, no matter what postal code I came from, that I can succeed and that I can impact change and that I can continue to grow into the woman that I was destined to be. And that's what I feel like. I'm carrying this village, and this village is carrying me and nurturing me every step of the way.
Mic drop. All right. The next question we have is for... All right, you have the mic. Good thing you didn't drop it. All right. So Joy, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because, oh my gosh, bios just make me so nervous, y'all. My name is Joy, pronouns are she, her, and joyful one. I'm a student of life, I'm a living being, I'm a spiritual being, I'm a child of God. I'm learning and growing just like everyone here in this space, and my passion, my roots are in community, youth work, mentorship, that too, mentorship, and all that great stuff. I'm just here to be myself, to be joy, to be a joy, and also to experience joy in my life.
Thank you. So can you tell us what supports and or hinders the impact of creative leadership?
Lord, what supports? It starts with this space, this vibrant space that we're in right now, having supportive individuals that believe in you, that want you to grow, that have similar values when it comes to creative leadership. It comes from, having the actual resources, the internal resources to do this work, and also the monetary resources to do this work. And let's be real, we need money. money is important. I know we want to talk around it. We want to be like, oh my God, let's make something out of nothing. But at some point, for this work to be sustainable, we do need some resources. We need folks that are willing to take a risk, willing to do things differently. Creative leadership really promotes us of taking a different path than the ones that we've done before. So we need risk takers, people that are willing to take a chance, take a new way, a new approach of doing the work. I'm going to get into my other list because I think I'm exhausted that. But before I get to that list, but I will say also, rest, very important. Taking care of yourself. We're not meant to be just working. We need time to refuel. We need time to re-energize. We need time to kind of fill up our creativity banks so that we're able to give from a more of abundant place. When I say what hinders, I will say fear, lack of resources, and lack of spaces like this where we have folks that are willing to make a change. We have folks that are creative, that want to work in different new ways, that are willing to take a risk. So I will say that ultimately, I'm leaning into spaces like this that are reciprocal, that are mutual, that want to make a change, that want to see a world in a new and beautiful place.
So first off, yas, mama. What Joy had to say was fantastic and like bars on bars on bars. The way I want to answer the question is I want to look at creative leadership as two different things, of looking at it as how to encourage leading creatively and creative leadership, as in the people who are in the arts industry, who are facilitating workshops, who are taking charge and doing the fundraising, who are doing the community outreach. They are the creative leaders. And I think it's a matter of providing space, being reciprocal, and just really encouraging money. Money goes a long way, and it's not just a matter of let's fund this workshop, let's fund this project. Like, you can always write for a grant, that's great, but the problem is that a lot of the grants are written that you can't do anything from the standpoint of capital, of paying people's wages, of paying salary, of buying capital assets. So you can't buy new laptops in order for this workshop to flourish, in order to continue to give back to the community. You can't do anything more than buy a few snacks and pay a bit of TTC fare, and everything that is disposable and will evaporate after that workshop's done. That's what a lot of grants are doing. We need to support creative leadership through funding that actually supports the people who are on the forefront of all of this and actually putting this together, who are actually giving of themselves to make the community not only embrace the arts, but flourish in the arts. And so it's a matter of meaning what we say and saying what we mean and doing it. There's a lot of empty promises going on right now, and it's really unfortunate of what we think the arts could be, what the arts should be, but there is opportunity to make that happen. And I think a very important start is doing things like this panel, of hearing from people who are actually working with community, actually doing our grassroots projects, and actually trying to meet both the people in need and the people of wealth and power in the middle. This is a first step, but we need to go beyond that, of actually putting in action what we all discuss on these panels.
I think something that we've also touched on as a group is the red tape that it comes when you're actually granting this funding and paying your artists and paying the people who are doing the front lines of this work, because the arts facilitation that we do is care work. It is emotional labor, it is physical labor, and takes a lot out of you. And with all the red tape of like, oh, you have to use these funds for this specific thing, this designated, allocated, laid out thing is not really supportive to those people who are doing that work. I think it's really hard. It makes it really hard for us to do that work when it's, oh, you can only have the funds, as Ashley was saying, to specifically pay 3 TTC tokens. Yeah, I think that's a really, really big part of it is yeah, the capital, the actual, and just like less red tape around what you can use the funds for. Have more faith in the artists as to what they'll do with the funds, because their community is holding them accountable. And it's not necessarily like, it's not necessary to crack down on every single thing that you've done in that project at the end of your grant cycle.
I made a note of that. I'm submitting a grant. I think administrators need support, as well as also the participants. What I wanted to add was, I'm currently trying to bring in programming for East African youths, and the work is a little bit lonely because most of our parents don't think art is a viable career. And you have to convince not only your parents, but you have to convince your community and the government. So there's so many layers to that. Right now, the work feels like a lone wolf, and it doesn't need to. This is community work. So what's hindering me right now is support. Having my people saying, yes, we believe in this work. This is something important. Art is healing, and art is a career. And anyways, that's one part. Another part is I'm also looking for work. So you're taking a lot of risk, and not only do you need financial support, you need the people support. There's just so many things you need in order to be running and succeeding in this life. That is life, capitalism. So to be a leader, you're going to have to be a creative leader. You're going to have to find creative ways to solve these issues. I haven't found them yet, but these conversations are really helping me. I'm taking notes.
So can you tell us about yourself, Warda, and the work that you do?
That worked out. So my name is Warda Mohammed Youssouf, and I am a refugee from Djibouti. And the work I do right now is arts organizing, community organizing. I did not see myself in this role. I thought I was going to be a filmmaker. But you kind of have to be an activist on top of social media manager, a bunch of different things. So yes, I'm an artist, arts organizer, and a few other things that I'm forgetting.
I think it's working out okay. So the next question is for you. What is the importance of making, claiming, and or owning spaces to create and produce?
Thank you. So I created a collective, a grassroots collective in 2021 called House of Arts, and I started it from my house. I would bring in people, especially newcomers, bring into the house. We would have art showcases and visual art. Then the visual art will be inspiring people to write. So we will have writing workshops, and then we'll continue. The art was this cycle of inspiring different forms of expression, whether it was music, film, theater, comedy. So space is important. I think people started paying attention to me once I became a space. Very weird. My value was quite clear, even though it was a house that was being valued. Film productions, I rent my house to be in films. Started from that to then hosting events to then doing other things like moving out of the house because the house can only take 40 people. So occupying different spaces in Toronto. So having a space, it's important for that reason. And another reason is you have a space where people can commune. I think communing is important for me. And houses feel like a place you feel welcome in. So I wanted people who are coming into anything I'm organizing to feel like they're at home. They're not at Screwface Capital. They're familiar people, you get tea, you get food, and you get poured into from so many different, it's holistic. You have a network of people supporting you as you dabble, figure things out, and then you get to perform what you just figured out. Can you remind me the question?
What is the importance of making, claiming, or owning spaces?
Okay, I answered it. Who else answered?
I think that it's important to note that those are three different things. There's making, there's claiming, and the last one,
Owning.
And owning, yes. So creating space is like Warda, I actually did something like that during the pandemic. I created my own community initiative called Bountiful Pride. It is for Black, queer, and trans folks over the age of 30 from Toronto. I created this space, and space doesn't have to be a physical room or like a beautiful, welcoming home like Warda has. It can also be a state of mind. It can be a concept of welcoming individuals. Making space and creating space is about creating inclusion, about when you are either not let at a table, you're not welcome at a table, or you're booted from a table, you build your own. And you build a longer table, and you just keep including other people at that table, and you give them space to be heard at that table. That's about that. And then there's maintaining space is about learning to adapt and learning to grow. And this is where we come back to people before policy, because we may have built that table with one idea in mind because we were forgotten by another one. But we have new members who have joined who need to be seen and heard in a different way than the original members do. And so maintaining is about adaptability and about accommodating other people. Owning space is about owning your own narrative, about not letting other people claim your space. That, like, I won't go into this whole tangent, but it's really making me think about, like, Becky's coming up into queer spaces and taking over spaces that they don't belong in. You're welcome to join us. You're welcome to be an ally, but I need to own my space as a Black, queer, disabled woman and own my narrative and welcome you into my space without kicking myself out of my own space. I need to own what it means to be included, and I need to ask for the accommodations at the table I'm at in order to be included, and that's owning your own narrative. And so I think that we need to have support and more funding to create more physical spaces like what Warda is offering. The fact that Warda is offering a home and tea and company and inclusion, to me that sounds like another form of chosen family. And you're providing that through art. And that's what I'm trying to provide through Bountiful Pride as well, because these are folks who have been, this was actually spoken about a little bit in the other panel, about folks who age out of systems. That's where I built Bountiful Pride out of, is aging out of the system during the pandemic. I lost a lot of resources, I lost a lot of community, so I had to build another table. And through that, I've made connections with my old tables, and we built a leaf, and we've severed that gap by introducing people and having that conversation for accommodation and acknowledging that people come before policy, that we can change the rules and exceptions can be made.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I think I feel like this question would not be complete without mentioning the ongoing housing crisis that's happening in Toronto, and how much it impacts people on the margins and people who are working in the arts, as our society doesn't value the arts as much as it does many other careers. I have the luxury of being housed, and I don't think that I could have found safety in the same way that my body does without it, before it. I don't think it did. And I've been working in community for over a very long time now, but more directly with clients for over 2.5 years. At the start of the pandemic, during at the front lines, as a client support worker at an addiction supportive housing, and then prior to that at a COVID-19 isolation site, and watching just like the desperation of unhoused reality for so many people in the city is just a real thing, and it actually emphasizes, I think, the points that Warda and Ash are making here, and how important spaces like these are, and even when smaller cuts happen wherever they do, or shifts happen, how much they actually affect people, is a really important piece, I think, that of the answer to this question.
Okay. Does Joy, do you want to add something to that?
Okay, I guess I'm gonna add something.
All right.
I was like, wait, I'm good. Y'all covered all that, but what I'll share very briefly, when it comes to making space, I think it's so important to have space, whether it's physical, digital, where we can be ourselves, we can be our full expression. And I will say, growing into adulthood and not having those spaces and feeling fearful to be my full self, and then coming into spaces like this, full color, just be my vibrant, joyful self, and just be around these amazing beings. This is incredible, and this is so valued. And I hope that those that are listening and those that are not listening begin to see the value of space, physical space, funding programs for folks that are over 30, in their 40s. We are all valued. We all need space. We all need community.
And I think we all need to see people like ourselves doing this.
Ammarah, the next question is for you. Can you tell us a bit about the work that you do?
Okay, so I touched on it a little bit. My practice is in arts-based wellness. I have been training as a somatic experiencing practitioner for the past 3 or so years. I am trained as a mindfulness practitioner as well. So basically, like a bunch of different modalities on what it means to navigate wellness and mental health and a regulated nervous system, mind, body, soul in the world. I have spent the past couple of years working on the front lines at a COVID-19 isolation site for homeless folks for the first part of the pandemic, and then for the second, until recently, as a client support worker with an addiction supportive housing program. And in my arts practice, I do a bunch of different stuff, but I think seeing people like myself in the work that I do is really important. I love photography. I like to write. I've done spoken word for a minute. I haven't done it for a minute, but prior to that, I've done it for a minute. And yeah, that's just a few of the things.
So in the chaos of the work that you do, how do you ground yourself or find balance?
Yeah, so I think it's not a straightforward answer by any means. I have spent over the past decade thinking about and looking into how we, as a culture, as a people, navigate our bodies, our nervous systems, our wellness in the world. And I think I have a very scientific understanding at this point of how the nervous system works, and how the mind, body, and soul operate in sync or not, and how we kind of get dysregulated. And I think for for people with intersectional identities, it's never a straightforward answer because our nervous systems, I think, very naturally are othered in society when we present differently. And that is where it all begins. And navigating the world that I have and the work that I've done, I have seen this over and over again, and how, quite frankly, a lot of the time we may not have the luxury to explore self-care, to explore wellness in the ways that people who are not necessarily, have more privilege, in the ways that people who have more privilege, who are maybe not so neurodivergent, for very good reasons and for, in a variety of ways, rather. I think that's, I might add more if anyone wants to go.
Okay, chaos. How do you ground yourself? I have a lot of thoughts most of the time, so I think writing helps me, journaling. Lately, I have been going to spaces where seniors are at and hanging out with them, and speaking with the elders is great. Guidance doesn't feel like you're tooth and nail trying to get it out of people. They're actually open to sharing, and wisdom is just flowing. Resources are shared, and I feel calm for some reason. They're not in the hustle and bustle. Yeah, the elders, speaking to elders. There's a person I know, usually I hang out with, and they say they're an elder in training. We're all going to be elders at some point. So yes, they ground me, hanging out with seniors and going to retreats. This is a new thing. I went to a retreat this year. I got a scholarship in order to get into the retreat, and I just love being by water and mountains. I feel like I gain perspective when I'm staring into nature. And I don't know, they speak to you. So I've been guided recently by the spirits. I don't want to get into it too much because I really love talking about this.
Yes to all that. Yes to the river, the water, the spirit, poetry, spoken word. Yes to all that. I just want to share very briefly that I went to a workshop and I learned about this concept of making space for grief. And that landed so deep in my spirit because many times when I'm planning my projects, I don't really plan for grief. I don't really plan for joy. I don't really plan for rest. I barely plan to celebrate. And I'm just trying to lean into giving myself that space to grieve, to experience that loss, to release, to celebrate the accomplishments, whether it's just I woke up this morning, oh my gosh, hallelujah, I'm happy, I'm here. I had a drink of water, celebrate each moment. And that's what I'm leaning into is with every project. Number one project is just living, making that space for all those amazing emotions and feelings and energies.
Yay. I don't think I'm at your level yet of like pure joy and giving that space, but like that was one of my silver linings that I accomplished during the pandemic was permitting myself to slow down, because all of the able-bodied people slowed down, all of the neurotypical people slowed down, and so like it was socially acceptable, and so I said, hey, I'm kind of part of society, I'm gonna do it too. And so in that slowdown, that's when I really let myself embrace my art and pull back from capitalism and pull back from the hustle. I still got my hustles, but they're hustles that bring me joy. They're more art space. They're more around my care for individuals, as opposed to just like working a customer service rep sort of position just to make money. I've allowed myself the opportunity to create positions and projects for myself where, yes, there may be customer service involved, but I'm choosing the customers I want to serve. I'm choosing the project and the product that I want to deliver. And I feel that, like, the way that I deal with the chaos is, it really depends on my mental health, because, like, with me being bipolar, there are times where, like, I need to embrace the chaos. I need to go straight into the eye of the storm, because I can't, if I sit still, my anxiety will build up of, like, what is the storm doing over there? But if I keep an eye on it, if I'm fighting in the storm, if I'm going, like, all out and embracing that chaos and dealing with that hustle and dealing with that grind and the, like, going, the other side of me gets to rest, because I'm not letting my anxiety take over and divert my attention. And then there's the other side of me, again, based off of my mental health and how I'm feeling, is I put the chaos over there, it stays over there, it'll go away or it'll still be there, and I turn off the light and I sleep. Like, there are times where it's more so managing my anxiety around things of dealing with my introspection, dealing with what do I need right now, because if I can't be here, if I can't function, then nothing matters, it's moot. So I have to take care of me first, and that's something that I've really been working on, and I've developed some better skills during the pandemic, because I took the permission everyone else gave themselves, and I took it for myself and gave it to me. Yeah.
So thank you. I knew we were going to go there. So a lot of science behind it, but it's a lot of finding play. It's a lot of finding community. It's a lot of finding joy in the arts. And I think a lot of us resource and cope through the arts, and there's a really very integral part of us that actually needs that. It needs to play, like just play for play, to schedule that in. And at the end of the day, I think that's where you find those things.
So the final question is, who do you think needs to hear this conversation?
I guess it's my turn. I would say, you know what, everyone needs to hear this conversation. And I want to speak to the folks that may feel like they're too little, too big, too much, too little, whatever it might be, too old, too young. Yes, you can. You can do whatever you put your mind to with the resources, because resources matter, y'all. It does. So I wanted to speak to those folks that are starting projects or are in the midst of working on a project for a couple of years. There's space, there's community for you, continue. So I want to invite everyone to this conversation, because we can all relate to these conversations and these topics, and we all need community, we all need encouragement, and we all need the space.
I love how it's just going to come towards me. But, like, first and foremost, vote Joy 2024. Like, yeah, you're writing campaign speeches now. But it's true. It's very much about, this isn't that it needs to be directed to a particular organization or a particular job description or anything like that. It's that people from the aspect of being in need, people who need the programming, people who need to participate, need to hear this conversation, because they need to know that they're allowed to be heard. To the same point of the people in power who are doling out the funding, or kind of not, or who are giving the infrastructure, or giving the guidelines, or any of the resources that are necessary. They need to hear this, because they need to stop telling us what the resources are that we need. They need to hear the resources that we need and provide them. So just like Joy was saying, is that it doesn't matter if you feel too much or too little of something. Everyone deserves to be part of this conversation.
I feel like it depends on which questions, because I feel like we really just answered all of them quite differently for quite different parts of our communities. I think, yeah, I feel like this was a part of another conversation we had a while ago, where I think during my undergrad degree, it was like there was a PhD level study that I read where they were like, basically the thesis was, we just figured out that the people actually know what the people need, and I was like, true. Didn't know that, did you? I think that's like definitely the first couple of questions. That's the people who are the funders, the people with the money, as Ashley pointed out, as Joy pointed out, and then I think the last couple, there's definitely more. Actually, 2 and 4, I think it was. It's community. It's people who I like. I need you to know that there is spaces for people like us in the community, and I need you to know that there are people doing this work around us, and there are people who look like you, and we're all just trying to figure it out. None of us know too much of anything, but we're trying to figure it out. And yeah, to find play, everyone needs to find play, but like just to know that what you're actually doing there is so important for your body. It's so important for your health, not mental health, just your health, period. And to find play in the arts, in whatever you find it in.
No, that was really beautiful. Who needs to hear this conversation, or these conversations? For me, it's family. Yes, they are the reason I do most things, because they don't hear me. Yeah, family and my people. I'm Somali, so they need to hear it. Like, art used to be part of how we lived, actually. I don't know how they forgot it, probably the war. But we're usually proud in our homes, in the wedding halls, in spaces no one sees, and it's a little bit sad. So they need to come out, and they need to realize, for me, my people, they need to realize that dancing is actually intelligence, and dancing is healing, and it's transformative, and it's not just reserved for special occasions. They dance once a year. It's so tragic. Yeah, they need to hear that art is something that need to bring back into their lives, that survival is not the only thing. You're here, you're safe, and I think just reminding them of that, and that the supports are here, and people really care to hear about your thoughts. People actually want to hear you, and this is nice. We have people listening to us, engaging, and it's going to add to uplifting us, honestly. So thank you for being here. But yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I think at this point we're opening it up to questions.
So we have 3 questions in the chat. I'll deliver them one by one. The first question is, a panelist mentioned about funding dropping off at 30 years of age. Why is this? Is there more funding needed for the 30+ age group?
So it's not so much that it's funding itself, so it's not like grants are only guaranteed for folks who are under the age of 30. It's that our government has set up this concept of youth and infantilization of anyone under the age of 30 is in desperate need of care, of their prescriptions to be covered, and all of these extra insurances. And then once you turn 30,
It's this concept that you've now become a full-grown adult and therefore must leave the nest, what must be on your own. And these are all very North American concepts, because this is not really like, if you think about like South America, like that's not what they're doing. They're very much embracing community. There's several generations living within one home, and there's a lot of mutual aid going on. But here in especially Toronto, the reason why I believe, at least, why a lot of the available, financially accessible and progressive programs that are available are all for under 30 is because the government is, again, telling folks how to spend the money that they're giving them. They're not gifting money, and we all know that if you give a gift, you have no say how that gift is used. They're giving money with a purpose and an intention and with an agenda. And that agenda is saying you must serve this particular community, and that mandate typically falls to people under the age of 30. There isn't really any funding or grants that are saying you can serve anyone. You can serve Black folks of any age from 0 to 65 plus. No, it's saying you can do a grant, you can receive this grant to do programming for Black youth aged 13 to 19, or up to 25, or you can get health packs for queer folks who are up to the age of 22. They're telling you exactly who you can serve, and they're not allowing you to, like this was also spoken about in the other panel, of self-funding, of having the autonomy of what you do within your projects. The government is very much steering the organizations that we have, telling them exactly who they have to serve, or else that funding will fall through. And so that's why a lot of people drop off after they turn 30. Anyone else want to touch on that? No? Yeah?
I mean, like, it literally is the cutoff of what Toronto specifically, a lot of the funding bodies classify as youth is at sometimes 25 and sometimes 29 and sometimes 30. And beyond that, there's like not much out here in terms of funding bodies, funding streams for the older, anyone above 30. There's no older generation. There's anyone above 30 is the fact of the matter.
Next question.
The next question is, as leaders in your community, how do you balance caring for yourself, aka avoiding burnout, while addressing the urgent needs of your communities?
Burnt out.
Yes, burnout. At the moment, I spend a lot of time by myself, or like I mentioned, I'm hanging out with people who are giving. I think living in Toronto, well, when I first arrived, it just felt like I was an outsider. And then when I went into spaces, I would be like, oh, so what's next? How can I get through that? And I, in the film industry, wanted to be a producer, and people would consistently tell me, pay your dues, pay your dues. So that means you have to burn out. You have to start from the bottom. And a mentor actually sat with me and said, you need to humble yourself. You're getting way ahead of yourself. So with burnout, I can recognize after 5 years who's about to tell me false information and who's about to help me and who isn't, who will help me. So yeah, I think discernment, I'm still learning to figure this out actually, but at least now I can figure out who's for me and who isn't. And I avoid burnout half of the year now.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like I burnt myself out pretty hard. I mean, I didn't burn myself out. Everything burnt me out. And coming from there and coming from like a very a place of like intellectualization of everything. I think it actually is a really far place from intellectualization. It's actually very intuitive. Like you're saying, just like leaning into more of your intuition, who to trust, what to do even. So I'm like, I feel like I'm redirecting my life a little bit and looking for more of this energy in my life. And I think it has a lot to do with actually like stepping back and resting and playing and listening to what's happening inside you and what your intuition and what your gut is telling you, and letting sometimes even your art guide you, letting your process guide you, and letting like coming back to yourself, because at the end of the day, that's the place you're going to have to come back to.
I agree with everything that was been said. Also, what I've been learning is to really listen to myself, listen to my body, see how I feel, see what my energy's like, and be really honest with myself and others. You know, if I can't take on this extra piece of work, I'm gonna be, hey, I don't have that capacity right now, but I can do this, or hey, I need extra support and I need help. I will say that has been challenging because it takes opening up my heart a little bit to others for them to see me in a way that maybe I don't want them to see me. But I think it's so necessary to ask for help, to say, you know what, I'm burning out, or I like to say, I'm burning in. I need some space. I need to refuel. I'm only human, right? So there's only so much I can do. Giving myself compassion when maybe I didn't do what I thought I was going to do. And I remember reading a book, I think it was like The Fourth Agreement, whatever it's called, y'all. And it was saying, like, your best today will look different than your best tomorrow. And I've been trying to lean into that more and more, you know, not holding up, oh my gosh, I did 10 billion things yesterday, now I can only do one. Oh my God, that's my best today. You know, dust my shoulder off, I'm feeling good, right? So just trying to lean into it, even though it might be complicated, and also being honest around what I can carry and what I can't carry. And then what I've been learning as well is when things come to me and folks want me to do things, hey, I want you to do this workshop, whatever it is, asking for what I need. I need an honorarium. I need to cover these expenses. I need resources. Yes, volunteering is beautiful. It's a beautiful practice, but we also need to ask for what we need at this point because we're going through a lot right now with inflation, rent, all that good stuff, right? So just, you know, I don't have the perfect answer. It's a journey. It takes that discernment, like Warda was mentioning. It takes that listening to your body. And it's like a muscle. You have to keep on working at it and honoring yourself first, and just treat yourself as the best person ever. You deserve that time. You deserve that space. You deserve to feel alive and feel that vitality.
That was absolutely beautiful. It was so good. If I'm being honest, that was loud, but I am burnt, I am crispy, I am toasty, I am tired. But I'm doing my best to apply aloe vera. I am very burnt out. I am very tired because I am trying to fill all the gaps. But part of my practice and my learnings during the pandemic was my introspection and talking to myself, talking to my body, talking to my mind, and asking for what I need. I've gotten much better at, I've been a fantastic communicator throughout my entire life of figuring out what other people need. I've been a fantastic empath, but I never tell others what I need because I don't want them to see me in a particular way. I don't want them to see that they can't be vulnerable because I'm vulnerable now and I can't be there to uphold them. But now I've started to realize that I need to be upheld in order to uphold. And so it's not perfect, but I am, thank you, love. It's not perfect, but I am doing my best to ask for what I need and to actually tell people, instead of just saying, oh yeah, I can do this project, this is what I need, I'm doing my very best to actually say, no, I am tired, I have no capacity, I cannot create this, I cannot build this, and no, I cannot consult on this, because that's usually the next step of like, oh, you can't build it for me, but can you tell me all the resources of how I can build this myself? No, honey, no. I fail sometimes, and I still take up projects that I really have no mind, body, or soul to work on, but baby steps.
Valuing yourself. Emotional labor is labor. Labor is labor is labor. And CARFAC rates are CARFAC rates for a reason. And creating boundaries and operating by them.
All right, guys, we have time for one more question.
Final question is, what is next up and how can I get involved?
Apparently I'm Felicia's proxy. In order to get connected with Next Up, you can always email Felicia Christmas at felicia@sketch.ca. And she is our facilitator. She is our rock who has guided us through our modules, through our learnings, through connecting with each other, to a point that we feel encouraged enough to speak our truth, our needs, and voice it on a panel. Next Up is a leadership program in where we are learning, really we're learning self-care as creative leaders of like, how do we ask for what we need? How do we navigate the arts industry? And how do we network and connect with like-minded folks and create collaborations, but not only lateral collaborations, but reach out to people of power within the arts industry. Yeah, did I miss anything?
I think that about sums it up. Does anyone want to add anything?
If you folks have any questions about it, you can always reach out to Felicia, and again, that is felicia@sketch.ca.
I feel like Sketch's website also has a pretty good, this is what it is.
Well, thank you, panelists, and thank you, audience, for having us. And I think we're done.
So in the room we have